Okay, welcome to my nightmare, and it's gonna be pretty fucking crowded. Where to begin? How about these upcoming unholy red terrors? By virtue of what's apparently the most badass welding mask ever, the Green Warriors from Seahorse's stage have now been made an unending pain. First, they have unskippable invincibility while their C4 laced masks blow off, so no rushing. Second, as you'll see, they have fucking psychotic arsenals. They fire lasers too quickly to dance with, but waiting them out sends each bastard into a potential rampage where they basically unload their entire stock at once. Combining them with climbing and auxiliary enemies made the first 40 seconds of this stage an odyssey in and of itself, and we've hardly gotten started. This flooding is a result of destroying Vile, and it makes the obtuse jump at the end of this possible. But the turtles don't make getting there easy, which is something I bet you thought you'd never fucking hear. Navigating the jumps with these floating landmines is bad enough, but you can't hurt the last two or their shells will block your last little aerobics display in the ultimate dick move. After that nonsense though, the mini-boss causes issues. I wish I was fucking kidding. It might not seem like it in the 20 or so seconds the fight lasts, but this mini-boss launches towards you with wanton disregard. It is way too easy to get caught by a corner of him, and you need to know exactly how and where to move in the short time it takes. Fortunately, after that, we have another slew of horrendously placed enemies. Hooray. Every little nitpick I've brought up so far has cost at least 2 attempts apiece, by the way, not that anyone's keeping track. I imagine all of this looks a lot more routine than it is, but every action I perform with the gauntlets in front of me is choreographed. Otherwise, you'd be seeing me take hit after hit, and X is now standing there letting something sap him to death because I put the controller down and went to bed. Of course, this shit is all semantics anyway. There has to be something absolutely fucking retarded or none of this means a thing. Luckily, Capcom was special enough to shit out just what we need for that. A drawn-out elevator sequence long enough to be given serious consideration as evidence towards life extension. It sure as shit feels like an eternity. Let it never be inferred Capcom doesn't adhere to the acknowledging a problem makes it tolerable school of thought, because they modeled the glacial fucks after snails. Good Christ. No, by all means, take your time. I'm sure this is how all a Doppler's workforce travels. That's why your master was only able to produce 9 crates of Mattel brand toy weaponry after 3 solid months of planning. You fucking idiot. Oh, I'm sorry, this was supposed to be going somewhere. The jumps required to make it from one snail to the next bring back ugly memories of Vile's factory, but they aren't the star attraction here. For the very last jump, there's a rather enormous hindrance in the form of a huge roof blocking any and all shots at making it. Zero's out of the question since he's off picking his nose in some less mundane part of the fortress. That leaves us with, no questions asked, the hardest thing I have had to do in this challenge. X needs to take damage in such a way as to allow him to climb spike walls well past his invincibility time, so he can phase through the last snail and blow the fucker's shell off, leaving him standing on the conveniently platform-esque husk. And there you are. This was a 5-second performance. Coming up with it took ages. Doing it successfully took a good whack of ages. Doing it successfully in the midst of everything else this stage has to offer would invoke Satan if I ever dared utter the numbers. If you were wondering, the helicopter enemies only fire when level with a still or walking X. If X is in the midst of a jump or fall, they'll keep floating up or down. However, when they finally do fire at you, they'll follow that by flying fuck knows where 90% of the time. Not only do my movements need to time themselves to keep their AIs in a loop, they also need to make sure to garner 2 enemies on screen at once, and spur them to fire at just the right moments. Namely, one to let me stand in the small groove, and the other to give me fresh invincibility to phase through the snail, without getting unceremoniously booted down the entire shaft and watching the whole system turn itself off out of boredom. The fact that this is stuck at the end of all the godforsaken nonsense as it is just cruel. It's comedy gold to suggest this trick is doable with any real consistency. There's not enough unconvincing rhetoric in my pretentious fucking head to dictate how ridiculous this was to pull off. And I swear to Oh yeah. The boss. He died. Extravagant. Now then, I swear to